Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. Alen Babic delivered on his nickname, The Savage, delivering a whirlwind performance against Shawndell Winters at week 4 of fight camp at Eddie Hearn's childhood home, stopping Shawndell Winters inside 2 rounds. And it could have been all over in the first, but we'll get to the action, and then we'll get to some thoughts on Alen Babic, his call-out of Filip Hrgovic, we'll talk about that too, and then the what next, because obviously after this sort of performance, Babic gets a boost in profile, and he's going to be a fun fighter to watch. But starting off with the action proper, because he delivered on exactly what he said he was going to do, that he was going to come forward and basically look to take out Shawndell Winters with every single punch. There was bad intent in every punch that he was throwing, and it became clear early on Shawndell Winters wasn't coping with that pressure and volume that Alen Babic was bringing in this fight. Babic was able to catch Winters with right hands in particular and left hooks. It was actually one of these situations where Babic was mixing up his punch as well, throwing a good variation, but Winters, his left hand was just down too much, getting caught with the right, and then Babic would often follow up with the left hook. And this was the situation that saw Winters on the canvas sort of later in the first round, about a minute to go or so, and he had to survive, and he did well to get out of the first round, but the writing was on the wall with this fight. Winters didn't really seem to be, after about the first half of the first round, didn't seem to be as enthused with what he was doing. It seemed survival mode, and early in the second round, that became apparent when there was a situation where Babic wildly sort of threw and missed. He was off balance, spun around, and that was a situation where Winters could have really started to throw a couple of shots with real intent to try catch, his man who was basically out of position, but he just weakly and limply went into a clinch as soon as Babic sort of spun back around. It was a missed opportunity, and at that point I thought, yeah, this is all over. Winters doesn't really want to be there. And about 10 or 20 seconds later, there was an incident where Winters sort of dropped to the canvas from a little bit of a push, but that was preceded by Babic, landing and unloading shots to the head and body, and it was just a small push, and Winters went down. And you can see here, he on the canvas, laid out, and it didn't look like he wanted to get up. But he did. But ultimately, within the next sort of, because the second round only went for about 50 seconds or so it was all kind of boom, boom, boom. But the stoppage, again, there was a right hand that landed, sort of started off the final sequence, and this left hand was the sort of final blow in the fight. Winters dropped to the canvas again, didn't look like he wanted to get up, and the referee waves off the count at about 3 or 4, something like that. But the performance from Babic, it was a fun one. This is one of these guys I think we're going to look forward to watching every time that he's out. Clearly he's ready for better tests. He sort of took Shawndell Winters' sort of resolve here and made him not want to fight. Compared to some of the other fights that Winters has been in, say against the likes of Joseph Parker, Alexander Teslenko, Babic did something that those two other guys could not do. He was able to take Winters' resolve, and Winters didn't look like he wanted to be there. He was very sort of survival mode from early on. And Babic is going to be one of these guys who's going to throw a lot of volume. He's going to come forward, and he's just going to put you under all sorts of pressure. And it looked here that Shawndell Winters mentally, his resolve sort of did not hold up to what Alen Babic was delivering. So from that sense, it was a very good performance from Babic. Technically, he wasn't sort of great, but he was getting countered a couple of times early in that first round. But really after the sort of few shots that Winters managed to land in the opening sort of 30 seconds, Winters didn't really have too much success. He was really trying to cover up or get out of the way, and sometimes he couldn't get out of the way, and he was allowing Babic to tee off on him on the rope. So you got the feeling that this one wasn't going to last long, and it didn't. But Babic overall, solid performance. And in the post-fight review, he said that he wants to be tested. He said to Eddie Hearn, give me the biggest guy you've got, the biggest one you've got. He said, I'm going to be a heavyweight who's about 80 kilos. I'm a smaller guy, but I want the test. I want the big guys. Give me the biggest one that you've got. and of the approach, because he was asked, are you going to sort of fine-tune your approach for different fighters? And he said, no, this is my approach. I don't want to be going past 3 rounds. I want to go in there, do my thing, which I think that sort of approach, that's not probably going to work at some of the higher levels, because one of the things with the pressure and the volume of punches that he was throwing in this fight, I think a lot of us probably were thinking, can he keep this up past 3 or 4 rounds? Because it was an all-action style, and ultimately he got Winters to wilt in there. But then he called out Filip Hrgović. He said he wants to fight him. He says Filip Hrgović has talked about him, has called him out, said all sorts of things about him, and he said, I don't like him. I want to fight him. So that sort of fight, because remember, both of these guys are Croatian. And previously, I have seen a little bit of beef, and this was at the start of the year. He was talking against Filip Hrgović trying to go to the Olympics and drop back down to the amateurs and maybe try and get a gold at Tokyo. Babic is friends with Marko Milan, an amateur from Croatia, and he said, look, Filip Hrgović has got no business going to the Olympic Games. He just needs to stay as a professional. So I think there is a bit of bad blood between the two, and there's been a few words delivered through the media, between the two guys. So I don't mind that fight at all, and I would make Filip Hrgović a favourite in that fight. But I think whatever fights we're going to get from Alen Babic, they're going to be high-octane, all-action, fun fights. I think he is probably going to be one of these guys that at some point on his way up, he'll fall short, because that style of just throwing all sorts of punches and just really going for it isn't going to always work. There's going to be some better operators on the way up who are going to be able to counter him, because this is one of the things in the fight that Winters, when he did land some counters, it didn't look like there was much on those punches, and Babic was open to being hit. And I think someone who's a good counter puncher, got some power, is going to give Alen Babic some problems at some point. And Filip Hrgović sort of falls into that category. Good counterpuncher, good power. Winters didn't really seem to have much on his punches, but Babic at some point is going to probably come unstuck. But let's just enjoy the ride, because I think he's going to be a fun fighter to watch. People are going to want to see him again. He's going to be in some good fights, some fun fights. And at this lower level, on the way up, on his come up, it'll be interesting to see how he looks and who he's against, who he's matched with, and what sort of knockouts he can get. But what did you make of it all? Alen Babic delivered on his promise to knock out Shawndell Winters. What do you make of it all? Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.